Hi, I'm DK Will, and this is DK Will Talk About It. I hope everybody's setting up to have a nice weekend, especially if you have the weekends off. Today I'm going to do a video again about Iraq and the dinar, primarily because I believe some information came out that's worthy of note, especially for those who are the naysayers who seem to have become embittered by this process and have nothing better to do than to remind everybody how misguided we are in this project. My thoughts on that, it got better. I'll tell y'all that. I thank you very much for that. The naysayers were minimal, but then a couple show up and they sling a little language around that I really ain't too happy to share. But if it's moderate, I share it because I'm not trying to control the thought processes. I am, though, trying to facilitate the atmosphere of my channel. And that atmosphere is one of positive, upbuilding energy, intriguing, perhaps, um, thought provoking, even maybe in some instances, life changes. Because if you change a person's paradigm, their perspective on things, and they realize that, hey, like a light went off, this is the perspective, that's life changing. But that can only happen from the inside out. So why am I saying this? I'm saying this because, like I said before, Dinar land has its fair share of people who have become absolutely angry and bitter over this process. And I'll just say to my listeners, I hope you guys are helped to become more positive about it and recognize, one, you still have a life. You still have a life to live. So live it. Two, nobody promised a date or a time for the Iraqi dinar. Three, it's a speculative investment on a foreign currency. And the only thing that's revealed when people get angry because it didn't happen the way they thought it would or the way someone told them it should, it doesn't reveal anything about the Iraqi dinar investment. It just reveals something about that individual. Investments take patience. If you want to know overnight if you won, buy a lottery ticket. You won't have to wait very long at all. And you'll know right away if you won or if you lost. Otherwise, the discipline that goes with investing in the Iraqi dinar and many other investments, the patience, the insight, and the understanding of the process is no different than what Buffett said. The markets are just mechanisms of transferring wealth from the impatient to the patient. And so, to hopefully build everybody up, I want to remind you, it's money spent. Have you been in it for 10 years? Then you spent your money 10 years ago. It's okay. And if you put money in a CD 10 years ago and they paid you 1%, even in those 10 years when you finally went in and redeemed your certificate of deposit, you won't come anywhere close to what you expect to make out of the Iraqi dinar or the Vietnamese dong. And wonder of wonders, maybe the Zim. Some have the Rial. Some have the Bolivar. Folks, it's investing. So let's approach it together in harmony as grown-ups and understand that if a person like myself gets online and tries to share information, first off, I don't try to profess that I'm any more than what I am. I'm just another investor. I think I have things to say that people appreciate, so I say them. Maybe that's why the channel is called DK will, that's me, talk about it. Okay? DK will talk about it. Yeah, it's a play on words. And I hope when those of you who come to my channel like to hear what I say and what I talk about, you enjoy it. I hope it helps. I really do hope it helps. And if you don't, you can change the channel. Really, you can. I hope that you don't, but if you do, I'm still living my life. So anyway, in the Iraqi dinar situation, I think a development occurred that we need to talk about. So I'm going to talk about it. And I hope you like. I hope you subscribe. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. I hope when you comment, you approach it as an adult, as a seasoned investor. I mean, the longer you've been in it, the many more seasons you've been through, right? So you should be even better at it. So is the misinformation out there that it's always going to happen on Tuesday? You saw my prior video not too long ago. I'll gladly pay you on Tuesday. Yeah, it's out there. So what? So what? I assure everyone, I just believe this. You can believe me if you want or not. When it happens, you'll know it. You'll find out. All right. Let's get it on.
Check the mic and make sure it sounds right.
Now, I do hope the mic sounds right. And here is some news out of Iraq. It says a new rise in the reserves of the Central Bank of Iraq. And the central bank announced today, Thursday, a new rise in the bank's foreign exchange reserves. The deputy governor of the central bank, Ihsan Shamran al-Yassiri, told the Iraq news agency, INA, how to do with that name, that the foreign reserves of the central bank of Iraq witnessed a 14% increase compared to what they were on 31/12/2020, or December 31st, end of the year, last year. Okay, in anybody's book, that's a good thing, folks. If you put $10,000 in the bank at the end of the year and you look today and it was worth $11,400, that's positive. That's a sign of strengthening for the Central Bank of Iraq. That's a good thing. It goes on to say it was worth $54.5 billion before, and it's worth $62.155 billion now, an increase of $7.65 billion. The Prime Minister, Mustafa al-Kazimi, announced last April that the central bank's foreign currency reserves had risen to more than $60 billion. 62 is more than $60 billion. Al-Kazimi said in a statement received by the Iraqi news agency that the central bank's foreign currency reserves rose to more than $60 billion, after it was $51.9 billion before the start of the reform measures for this government. The Prime Minister added the increase came as a result of the reform measures taken by the government after many bet on their failure and non-continuity, adding, "We succeeded in stopping the waste and great corruption in the notorious central bank auction, and we are proceeding with our procedures and we will not stop." I like that man's confidence, I like that man's conviction, and I like that man's apparent dedication to doing what's right in his eyes for that country and its money, and stopping the waste and great corruption in the notorious central bank auction. And let me add, that's the reason for the misinformation, people, to shake out the snakes. And so let's just wait for it. It'll come. And if it doesn't, and you lived your life and then you enjoyed your life, you didn't lose anything. That squawking you hear is a yellow-naped parrot. And when you leave him alone too long, he says, "Here I am, somebody come here and see me." He's just going to have to wear out. Sorry for that background noise. Moving on. Here's another good point of occurrence here. Excuse me 1 minute. Maybe that'll help. But the reason I'm showing the information here on the Iraqi Stock Exchange is because that's the development I think needs to be shared. It revolves around the Iraqi Stock Exchange. I can remember looking at the stock exchange numbers a couple years ago, and 598 points is what they're showing here. And I can remember being, under 5 and, just over 5 back and forth. So it's on the way up, which is another sign of strengthening. It says that the number of traded shares during this week reached more than 3 billion shares. The value traded this week amounted to more than 3 billion dinars. Now we know 3 billion dinars reduces it to millions of dollars, so it's not a very fat stock exchange, but there's a reason that it's not a very fat stock exchange, and that's why what happens next is so important, because the UN Security Council, United Nations Security Council, had a press release on the 21st to show that things are happening, folks, on an international level. The Security Council 1518 Sanctions Committee removes one entry from its sanctions list. Well, what is that entry that was removed from its sanctions list? Let's continue. Entities and other groups, the Baghdad Stock Exchange has been removed from its sanctions list. That means that the Baghdad Stock Exchange can now go international without sanction, which calls into question, would you really go international with your stock exchange with a sanctioned currency, an unsanctioned stock exchange, but a sanctioned currency? That's one of those things that makes you go, And that's one of those things, if you're not embittered and you're just patiently watching your investment, that you can look at it and say, yep, it's a good investment. I'm in the right place. I just have to be here at the right time, in the right place, at the right time. Just remember that. And if you don't make it, I have a dear friend of mine that died in waiting for this. Did he miss out? No. Death is a release from this crazy, wicked world we live in, and hopefully a resurrection into far better things. So that's why I say, live your life. Enjoy your life. If this is going to happen, it will happen. And it will just come as further blessings. Because every good gift and every perfect present comes from above. So why would we want them to give it to us while it's dirty? If they're trying to clean it up, it won't be a good gift, will it? And maybe that's the reason he said we succeeded in stopping the waste and great corruption in the notorious central bank auction. If they got to clean up our blessing, let them. It's okay. Moving on. Here's another important, and this is current. It's Tidbits from TNT, Friday, 9/24/2021. Al-Hashimi calls on the government to focus on the digital economy. Now, I'll read some of this and I'll talk about some of this because I have more to say. DK will talk about it. It's the name of the channel. Not necessarily DK will read about it, okay? Okay, so I'm going to talk about it. Folks, we're going digital. A new financial system is coming. As I've said before, I'll say it again, it's bigger than Iraq. It's bigger than Iraq. Iraq may play a critical role, may or may not. However, it's bigger than Iraq because it's a global currency reset. And of course, the cabal and the bad guys are trying to call it the Great Reset. One way or the other, it's going to be reset. And that reset is going to make the shift that this deputy understands. Al-Hashimi said in a statement that Iraq needs to give the private sector the appropriate environment to transition to digital transformation. As a revolution in information and communications is currently similar to what the world witnessed in the Industrial Revolution that occurred in 1760, noting that the legislative authority, the future needs to focus on supporting the digital economy through appropriate legislation. Same thing that's going on over here in the U.S. Some countries are ahead. I did a video recently about Bhutan and Ripple opening up. And folks, that's what's going on here. Okay, so the private sector has begun to publish electronic payment tools in all the country and requires shop owners need to use a point-of-sale device to organize the buying and selling process, reduce theft, waste, and more. Folks, it's coming. And I'm not just making this up, even though I've been talking about it for a couple of years. Because here's another one. A new currency system is emerging. Now, there are some who are not a part of Dinar land that still see what's happening. And so I think what impedes their understanding and progress is that they still hang on to the old mentality, the old way of thinking. And as a consequence, sometimes they don't see that the new way is not just coming, that it's already here. Here's a little support for that. During Alan Greenspan's time at the Fed, everything changed and Wall Street has become a circus. Wall Street is nothing like we remember. It's okay, because it was a farce from the start. Today's policies would have been unthinkable back in the 90s. Are they still thinking backwards? Are you seeing what I'm saying? Fundamentals barely matter and the new solutions are toxic. The new solutions from the old cabal fiat system is toxic, but the new solutions from the digital currency, cryptocurrency realm, and the distributed ledger technology and the on-demand liquidity and the blockchain technology, those are not toxic. Those are major improvements. And that's where things are heading. And whether they like it or not, that's where they want to go, because they can't keep doing this. The U.S. will print whatever it wants, and thus the value of the currency will be destroyed. That's what happens, folks. It's a simple process of supply and demand. And all of us know that if you have a lot of something that outpaces the demand, you have to lower the price to sell it. And if you have a little bit of something and a huge demand, you have to raise the price to try to find equilibrium. That's an economic term, but when you find equilibrium, that means you got them pretty much balanced, supply and demand. Well, if you continue to print a bunch of paper money like they're doing with the currencies, more and more and more and more, it becomes more and more and more worth less. Not worth something, worth less. And so this new system is not only coming, it has to happen, because the Fed system and the central bank system, I have a video about that. You might want to find it. I'll put it, maybe time it to show up here as a suggestion of who really owns the banking system. It's privately owned, and they are loaning the countries their money. And so if the Fed system, central bank system, is loaning the countries their money, every country's treasury should decide its money. But that's not what happens. So that means the country starts out in debt. Why do you think we have these trillion-dollar debts? Because they have trillion-dollar budgets, and it's all a loan from the get-go. So when we go to work and we get paid, we're getting paid on loan. We're debt slaves, folks, and something has to change. Well, something is going to change. All right. The market believes in the narrative of transitory inflation. Once faith is lost, gold will take off. Gold is currency insurance. Price matters, but very soon preserving purchase power will matter more. Now, this is just introducing this man's video, but these points I think are critical, because the central bank digital currencies that they are making is just a temporary band-aid, because what they're doing is they're making digital currencies of the fiat currency. That's still following the same thing here. Currency will be destroyed. And so, they're desperately trying to take advantage of the new but maintain the old. It's not going to work. What's going to work is a total global currency reset. And yes, it's going to be cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology. And so if you haven't put your mind there, it's time to put your mind there, because what's going to happen for those who are already invested in cryptocurrencies, Now keep in mind, a lot of them are going to die, but before they die, they're going to blow off. They're going to blow up like crazy. And if you own cryptocurrency that has a utility and it fits into this new dynamic quantum financial system, you're probably going to make one heck of a lot of money. On the other ones that are going to be fads and memes and things like that have not been, say, Christian to be into the system, make your money and run. Make your money and run. But in the meantime, the central banks are trying to do it. Look how far they are along. Today's central bank digital currency status. I'm not making this up. It is happening. Okay, this is a CBDC tracker. We see canceled here in Canada. Canceled over here in China. Of course, China canceled it. Now they're turning on crypto, but that's happened 3, 4, 5 times already in the past, starting back in 2012. Don't let it shake you. And who's this over here? France. Okay, so, but look where they are. These countries are in research, including the United States. These countries are in proof of concept. Japan, Thailand. What is that? Get out of here. Ukraine and Sweden. Sweden? Swedish bank account. So the banks are going to central bank digital currencies whether we like it or not. And that's where the XRP comes in, but that's another story. But I looked this up, proof of concept, because I wanted to know what it meant. Or put it this way, I wanted to share what it meant. Here's what it means. Typically derived from an experiment or pilot project which demonstrates that a design concept, business proposal, etc. is feasible. There's no question it's feasible. If you've been in cryptocurrencies, you already know it's feasible. Some of us are already using Visa cards, buying things out of our cryptocurrency accounts. I mean, it's just a done deal. What happened is they fell behind. The central banks tried to keep the fiat system afloat, and it's not working. And so they're not trying to do a bastardized combination, a hybrid of central bank fiat currency and the digital blockchain technology wave. As we read earlier, though, gold's going to destroy the Fed. People's money is losing value. Inflation is going to continue to eat it up. Don't believe what they say. Watch what they do. And so I think that's going to wrap it up. So here's the takeaway points. Takeaway points. Iraq is getting strong. Their foreign exchange reserves increased by 14%. Like I said, think of your savings account. $10,000 at the end of the last year, $11,400 today. Are you better off, stronger? Yes, even with inflation. Yes, you are. Number 2, the UN has removed sanctions from the the Baghdad Stock Exchange. That means nothing prevents that exchange from being international. What that really means is now private investment can come in and invest into the stock exchange. In other words, invest into securities of companies and businesses in Iraq that are going to blow up in this development stage of the country. And so now the door is open. That's a great sign for international movement forward. And number 3, whether you like it or not, please prepare your mind. A new currency system is coming, and it's going to be here faster than we know. And I encourage you, if you haven't investigated, start investigating. Start investigating. I'm DK Will. This is DK Will Talk About It. I certainly hope that you have a good weekend. I certainly hope that you have a good life.
Check the mic and make sure it sound right.
Good night.